Sup, everybody? It's time to get gay up in here. Yeah. No, in all seriousness, I actually didn't buy any of these like rainbow stuff, these gay things. They were given to me. This was given to me by my mom. I think this was given to me. Oops, sorry. Actually, this wasn't given to me by anyone, but my dad took me to a soccer game or football game that had like a pride event thing, and they gave these out for free. And so, it's just like I didn't actually went and obtain these myself. Like people, this was given to me like a sibling. Like people just like that. You're gay, therefore you want gay things. You want rainbows. I'm like, actually, I'm not crazy about rainbows, but okay, I'll take it. This isn't gay, but it has a rainbow on it, so. And it's very true. I'm cute as hell, which incidentally is where I came from. And where I'll be going back to, according to some really religious people who don't seem to like my people. I also decided just for this video, my mouse and my headphones are currently on the rainbow setting because that's appropriate for what we're talking about today. So I had done, in 2019 I did a art set where every day I posted something for Pride Month. And I thought it was, some hot take stuff where like, being inclusive and welcoming and stuff like that, and being like, hey, you're not invalidated if this. Like my thing was, you don't blank to blank was like the format I did. Every single thing was like, you don't blank to blank. My very first day, I thought I'll start off with allies, So it's like, you don't have to be LGBT plus to support the community. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I thought it was, not a bad thing. And it's just like a lot of these posts, people just seem to like miss the point, or like thought I was being a clown or something. So this person responds, if you need your own flag to show your support, then your allyship is fake and performative. I'm not sure they're talking to me directly, or if they just mean anyone that wears the ally flag or pin or whatnot. So I'm just like, okay. I think it's more about the symbol marker, like a way to let people know, to let people like us know that we're safe around them, that they're not going to turn out to be a bigot, homophobe, transphobe, that it's a safe space, kind of like how my school has posters put up by my professors that essentially say that they will provide a safe space for you if you're LGBT+, just so you know it's fine to be honest and open about it. Because a lot of students are scared to face discrimination in those circumstances. Like, I think they missed the point of the ally flag. It's not to be like, look how woke I am. Look, I'm part of the LGBT now. Or, look, I'm good because I wear this flag. It's more to be like a little like, say, hey, just so you know, I'm not gonna do any bad to you. Like, it's not supposed to be a self-fulfilling thing. It's more of like, hey, you're safe around me, like I'll be big brother or whatnot to you. Not big brother as in like, dystopia, but I'll be like a big sibling to you. I'll protect you. I'm not gonna be a transphobe around your queerphobe or anything like that. So I think they kind of missed the point of that and of my drawing. Because my drawing literally, like, one of them says misgender my girlfriend or call my bro a fag and I will end you, because this character's this character's brother is pansexual, and his girlfriend or his love interest is a trans intersex woman. So he's just like, like, he can still support the LGBT even though he himself does not identify as, even though he himself identifies as cis-het. And then the other little girl, her moms are both lesbian or queer at the very least, and she's just like, I love my moms, and she doesn't, we don't know what her sexuality is, but we could assume maybe it's cis-het since that's the default, but she still supports the LGBT community even though she herself is not LGBT, and that's valid, like, yeah. And then I just kind of get like, it might be fake or performative if you need to wear the flag, if you need a flag to your allyship. And I'm like, you missed the point of everything I was saying here, but okay. So this one, I was trying to be like, you don't have to be, transphobe. And at this point, I guess there's a term for it, a really stupid term for saying that you're transphobic. You can have genital preference and you don't need to make entire sexuality for it. That's just my hot take on, super straight, super gay, super lesbian, whatever. Your genital preference doesn't have to be a sexuality. That's my cup of tea. It's my cup of blood. Gay people drink the blood of their enemies. So, it's like, you don't have to avoid trans women to be a lesbian. Now, I don't know for sure if this response was about this, because they anonymously sent this to me. It wasn't commented on the post, so for all I know, it actually has nothing related to this one. But it was shortly after I'd posted it, so this person...
Binary trans people aren't separate from cis men and women. Saw you and reply somewhere and wanted to clear that up.
I love how these people seem to assume that I am like cishet or something. But no, so, first one, I completely agree. If this is in regards to my post about lesbians and avoiding trans women, it's because I agree with the notion that binary trans people should be seen on the same level as cis. Dating a trans person of the same gender shouldn't make someone feel more or less gay, but sadly, a lot of statistics and personal experience show that people who identify as homosexual are less willing to date transgender people. In fact, one study showed that lesbians were more willing to date trans men than trans women. I think it might have said the same in reverse for gay men, and so that was kind of really upsetting on two fronts. That being said, I know it's still only a small handful, and those who are willing to do those studies is not the entire populace. It's still food for thought for those who can't see past their partner's genitalia. Both my girlfriends are binary trans women, and I could never see them as anything but women, pre or post-op. It's sad that how there are still some who do not share this mentality. I do want to say this was like a couple of years ago, so like I might be a little bit different on my views, but I still agree. Like, I don't think anything transphobic about genital preference. If you're a lesbian and you have genital preference and that's why you want to date a trans woman, that's valid because she's got a penis or something. Not all trans women have penises either. Pre or post-op, I mentioned that. But if you aren't interested because you don't find her attractive or because she has a penis, that's valid. I understand that. Okay, I'm not calling you transphobic. And I obviously was trying to say, you can date a trans woman and not feel invalidated as lesbian. And this person felt like the need to be like, binary trans women aren't different from cis women. Like, yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say. Thank you. Now this one's about asexuality. This is a hot take because not only people are very validating to ace people. It's like, you don't have to abstain from sex to be asexual. So someone was like, puts on clown wig. And so, I understand how this is easy to misunderstand, but it's about those who identify as asexual and yet are still willing to have sex, or had sex in the past. It's about not invalidating someone's identity as ace just because they've had sex or are willing to. I know a handful of asexuals who do have sex, whether or not it's actually something that interests them. Sometimes there are asexuals who have sex because they like the emotional intimacy, or because their partner likes sex. Or some don't crave sex, but can like it. And the person responded, then you are an asexual. If you participate in sex and enjoy any part of it, then you aren't asexual. Asexual means lack of sexual interest and attraction. Wouldn't that qualify as demisexual? And I was like, partaking in sex is not equal the same as interest or attraction. Demisexual is usually classified as having interest in sex with very specific people, usually if you're romantically invested in them, which also is part of the asexual umbrella, so you're still technically ace if you identify as demisexual. Gray ace is probably closer to what you're thinking, and where I personally feel I fall. At this point, I feel I fall more under demisexual, so. But even still, I'm not talking about someone wanting to have sex, just willing to despite being ace. Bring it to the characters present in the image. One character has had sex in the past because it felt expected of her. She came to terms with herself and decided to live a life which she wanted and is now living a completely ace and sexless life. People try to make her feel invalidated as ace by the fact that she's had sex multiple times in the past, but because she partook doesn't mean she enjoyed it or actually was attracted to it. And my take on that is just like, if a gay person were to have had sex with a straight person in the past because either society expected it of them, they were pressured into it, they were in the closet, that doesn't mean they're not gay. They're still gay. But they had sex with a straight person it didn't have to be a straight person, but they had sex with someone of the opposite sex in the past. Doesn't mean that they are no longer gay. They're still gay. They didn't have the actual attraction to that person. They just had to, or felt I had to, or were pressured into it, you know. Same thing of an ace person. If an ace person was pressured into it because of a partner or because they were expected to by society, they're still ace, whether or not they had sex, you know. Maybe they were still discovering themselves. And then they said, if they like aspects of that, wouldn't that disqualify them? I don't know, man. Thanks for answering. And I did say that, you know, well, they didn't have to like it. But okay. But yeah. Now, this one I saved for last because it's going to get a little long. And it has to do with polyamory. And I know there's an argument that polyamory technically isn't part of LGBTQ plus whatever. I almost never say Q, but okay. I think it's a QIA or something. I just say LGBT plus. The plus includes everything after the T. I identifies things after the T. I'm not trying to be exclusive to people who are after the T. I myself is after the T. It's just easier for me to say LGBT plus. Okay. So I know some people don't consider polyamory as part of LGBT, but I thought it fit with the theme because my thing for this month wasn't actually just on Pride. It wasn't just on LGBT stuff. It was also about feminism, about sex positivity, and, you know, things like that, and polyamory. So I had a few that were about, you know, like BDSM and saying, like, you don't have to be gay to be a submissive male, you know, or, you know, things like that, or you don't have to be thin to be beautiful, you know, things like that. Like, they weren't specifically just Pride related. This project didn't start as a Pride related thing, or just Pride specific thing, but it got put into, I posted it for Pride Month, you know. Because a lot of the things that LGBT fight for, especially like trans people or gay people who fight for the right to be existing and to exist as themselves, like a lot of those things, like for trans men or trans women to fall, you know, be accepted despite not falling perfectly under the box of gender, is also the same fight for cis men and women, for cis men to be allowed to show their feminine side, their emotions and stuff like that. It's a fight for everyone, not just ourselves, and that's something that's, you know. But yeah, so I'm going off on tangent. Basically, I had this thing. You don't need to choose an identity to be part of the LGBT plus community. Like, I know you don't choose your sexuality. I want to get that clear. There's a difference between me saying choose your sexuality and choosing a label or identity kind of thing. Like, for example, one of the characters is gender questioning, and so they're like, does that make me, is this mean I'm going to be gay? Does this mean I'm going to be straight? Like, what does this make me, you know? Because they prefer male partners, but, you know, they don't know if they identify as female or non-binary or what anymore. And then the other character is kind of experimenting with polyamory, and they themselves are kind of like, am I pan? Am I bi? Am I straight? You know, so they're both kind of questioning their identities, and like, I'd still consider welcome you in an LGBT plus space, because, you know, you're valid even if you don't know what you are, who you are quite yet, and you're still kind of questioning. It's basically also being welcoming to people who are questioning, whether they're gender questioning or questioning their sexuality, and being like, hey, come on, sit with us. It's okay. Come learn. And I actually had experience like that with one of my exes who, she wasn't my ex at the time, but she started questioning her own gender identity, and I asked this trans Discord server I was in, like, hey, would it be okay if I invited I referred to her as my boyfriend at the time because she was still fine with male terminology for the most part. Like, I asked her, like, is it okay if I still call you my boyfriend? And she's like, that's fine with me. Because she started off as, like, identifying as non-binary. So it's like, hey, is it cool if my boyfriend joins the server? They're questioning, I think I was using they, them at the time. Like, they're questioning their identity and kind of wanted to talk to other trans femme people or whatnot, and kind of, like, maybe discover themselves. And I've been showing them funny trans memes anyway. It was a meme corner, a trans meme corner. And so they welcomed her into the server. even though she wasn't for sure trans or anything like that. She identifies as trans now, and she is trying her best to transition, but it's really hard in the UK to do so. But later on, though, like, so like people were accepting, even though she was just questioning, even though, like, for all we know, she could have turned out to be cis. And then another later thing with my current sweetheart, where I had asked if he could join the server, and he's a cis het man for the most part, and there were a few people who said no, they're not comfortable with that, and it kind of boggled my mind for a number of reasons. Whereas, like, you want to be accepted by cis people, but you don't want to welcome them into, like, I understand, like, you don't want harmful people in your environment, but he's very clearly not a harmful person. He's been loving and accepting of me. He's made me feel nothing but validated, and he enjoys the memes. In fact, a lot of the memes I had been posting at that point had been from him, and it was just like, I felt really weird about it. And I did leave the server not too long after, but it's like also one of my partners said that was like the only server trans server she's ever been part of that was not okay with having cis people there. So I did rub me wrong, but I was like, I had the mentality of, what if my ex, who's still part of the server, had turned out to be cis? Would we have kicked her out? Would we had not let her stay? But yeah, basically, this is about accepting people who are still questioning, you know, into the LGBT community. Like, it's okay to be questioning, you know, and you're not sure. And in case you didn't know this about me, I'm queer. I'm trans. I'm saying queer because I don't really know where I fall anymore about my sexual identity. I, for the most part, use pansexual, bisexual. I used to identify as gynosexual, which means I'm attracted to female or feminine partners, including non-binaries. But I'm at a point where, especially after I started transitioning, I started feeling a lot more open to male or masculine partners. But yeah, so I'm polyamorous too. I have 3 partners right now at a time, and they're all aware I'm living with 2 of them, and they're dating each other. Like, I know polyamory. I am polyamorous. You know, so I'm just giving you that context for what happens next. So I get this comment. This is on Instagram.
Hey there, heart. I see you put polyamory in the tags. Just a heads up. Did you know that non-monogamy, poly, isn't part of the LGBTQ plus community? Please check out my page or DM us to learn more about non-monogamy. Heart. Signed, Rabbit.
Okay. There literally was a polyamorous flag in my picture. So it was not inappropriate of me to tag this thing with polyamory. There literally was someone who's questioning if he was polyamorous. And like, I did check out this person's like Instagram, and they had posted in their feed about how they were so tired of trying to look up polyamory and then seeing like LGBT tags, and like there was nothing polyamorous about them except that, you know, people just, because I see people do this a lot where they tag a lot of things that are related but not anything to do with the actual post. Like, they'll be like, it'll be a lesbian couple and they'll like, or it'll be a trans person, they'll like tag gay, lesbian, whatever, and like it's not, you know, there's nothing actually gay or lesbian happening in this. It's just a, you know, LGBT person. They'll just like, it's under the same umbrella, so I'm gonna put everything here. I see that happen. I get it, and I understand that frustration. But it was like, I love how they assumed that I should want to know more, because I clearly must not be someone who already knows a lot about this. I had been polyamorous for years by this point. I had been like, you know, I had 3 partners at the time this had been posted. I'm gonna have only like 2 at the time. But point aside, my project isn't just about LGBT plus issues, though they are the same rights we are, though in the same rights we in the LGBT plus community fight for, though they are the same rights. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Haha. That they are the same rights the LGBT plus community fight for. It's about sexual and gender norms and breaking them, and breaking stigma in the LGBT plus community. The specific image is on questioning and feeling left out of the community, as you don't know if you have a label, whether or not it's about sex or gender. One character in the image is questioning his own sexuality, part due to polyamory. I was saying how his sexuality he was questioning because he realized he was polyamorous, and actually I went through the same thing. where when I discovered I was polyamorous, I realized I was a lot more open to having male partners, because originally I just identified as lesbian. This is before I discovered I was trans too. So I discovered I was polyamorous and trans around the same time. And so it was like, as a monogamous person, I could only ever be a female partner in my mind. But when polyamory opened up, I was like, okay, yeah, I'd be okay if there being a male in my life too, as long as I also have a female partner in my life, kind of thing. So, and whether it's true or not, we have polyamorous people. And whether it's true or not, polyamorous people are considered LGBT+. I find most people in the community consider us to be, whether you're queer or poly, to be so. Whether you're queer or poly, you fight for the right to love. It's one of my things. Like, polyamory is the right to love. There's so many people, polyamorous people aren't allowed to legally marry their other partners and things like that. Polyamorous people are fighting for the right to love their other partners and be socially accepted as loving their partners, because it is frowned upon. You know, we're in such a monogamous, mononormative world, you know. There's also a high chance that someone in the polyamorous relationship will be LGBT+ in some way, though I am well aware that you can be cishet and polyamorous. A good amount of my fellow transgender friends identify as polyamorous, and I am a transgender individual and a polyamorous with 2 other trans people, and it's somehow branched to 2 more trans individuals. One of my partners has a trans partner who has a trans partner. It's easier to date trans people when you're trans, because you know they're going to be more likely to accept you and understand you. That being said, not all trans people want to date trans people. I know, like, one YouTuber who is a trans man, he was saying that he's not comfortable with it, and that's a-okay. Like, I get it. Double the dysphoria. I've had that before, where, like, I got dysphoric over the fact that my partner had parts I wanted, you know, or felt that I should have, you know. I get that. That's valid. In all my LGBT+ groups and in my classes that study sexuality and gender, there's almost always inclusion of polyamory. So whether or not it's being considered LGBT+, I still say we have a right to be proud and share that pride along with our other labels. Most people in polyamorous relationships have to let go of their societal norms that we in the LGBT+ community fight against the good of everyone, including cis-het. But thank you for your time and good luck with your page. CSR. And then they responded, well, I understand that, but just because both groups fight for the same social norms and a majority of people, poly people, are LGBT doesn't make it LGBT. That's like saying lots of black people are LGBT, so if they're black, you're LGBT. While there are overlaps in the community, it doesn't make them the same. LGBT is specifically coined with sexuality and gender identity. That doesn't mean poly people aren't welcome at Pride or LGBT, it's just that they are an ally and it's not the aspect of them, it's about being LGBT. Bunny, or rabbit. And I'm like, okay. Well, as I said, this project isn't focused solely on LGBT+ issues, though personally my polyamorous identity has always been a sexual romantic identity to me. To me, personally. I didn't say it had to be for other people. I was saying to me. It's literally about who I will be spending the rest of my life with and or have sexual relations with, which feels the same as a sexual identity. And like how people don't stop being bi when dating one person of one gender, I don't stop being polyamorous when I'm dating one person at a time. Realizing I was polyamorous, I was able to come to terms with myself that I would be willing to date masculine partners and not just feminine or androgynous. They coincided with each other, at least in my case. Being Greek won't change either my sexuality or gender, no matter how queer culture is in my no matter how much queer culture is in my ancestry from it. This project only has a polyamorous tags when polyamorous characters show up, and only has appropriate LGBT tags when the appropriate characters are present. Hence why not all that are tagged with gay or trans if gay or trans characters isn't present. Same for BDSM, as some of these focus on kink and not just LGBT topics, as said before. It's about sexual, not specifically sexual orientation or identity, stereotypes, gender norms, LGBT topics, and or societal standards. To be fair, I've been to transgender gender questioning only events that don't overlap with sexuality. Clearly, if I were to attend a polyamorous pride only event, I wouldn't go and bring my pink blue, purple flags and make it about being bisexual. They can still be in the same community and have separate factions. I understand everyone views it differently, but that's my own viewpoint. The tag on this post is just one of those overlapping scenarios, as there are polyamorous characters in this post. Also, the other character in the post, they're not questioning polyamory, but they are in a polyamorous relationship. One is questioning polyamory, the other one is actually polyamorous. There's the poly flag on both people. So I just kind of felt a little like... So yeah, that is my tea of the LGBT. It was really funny because I did the same to be like super inclusive and wholesome and nice and stuff like that, and instead people were just like, clown, or you should learn this, or, you know, completely miss the point and be like trying to bash someone else, like the person with the whole, like, you know, ally flag. They were like trying to just bash on anyone who would wear the ally flag when it's just like, I'm just trying to say you're safe. I'm not trying to do this for self. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I hope you all are practicing safe social distancing, and I hope you all have a gay day.